So to open the file, you need to create a file object first. And how do you do that? You give it a name, whatever name you want to call it. It doesn't matter really. Okay, my file, F file, whatever. It's just a variable name. Am I recording? Yes. Okay, so then you use the equal sign assignment operator, and this is how you can open it. This is creating a file object. So open. And open has two arguments, and that's very important. You have this on your quiz or test, okay? It requires two arguments, two strings. One is the file name. The other is the access mode, read or write, just one letter, lowercase. Okay, so the file name, and you can call it any file. I will just say my file, okay? And your file name, I would put underscore to connect it without the spaces. It's easier that way for the system, okay? And if this file does not exist, you need to create it. If it exists, when you open it for writing, it will overwrite everything. That means it will clear up everything in the file and rewrite it, okay? So I don't have this file, and I will just open it. So when you do this, notice there are two arguments, and open is the keyword, right? And this is really a file, just an object name. It doesn't matter what you have there. Okay, two arguments, file name and access mode. So this way, you are opening a file for writing. Once you have this object, you can use it. That's how you use it, right? We learned this in string. You use the object name dot followed by the method. In this case, it's write. Okay, whatever you want to write to that file. So I will write some numbers, for example, right? Okay, to it, just one line. I can do two lines, right? Do another line. Okay, so that's how you write. Now I'm writing two lines of numbers separated by space, by space there, right? But to the file, to the system, these are not numbers, these are strings. So anything you write to a file must be in the string format. Okay, that's very important. So, and that's just telling you 20 characters, I think. Okay, and then you must always remember to close it. That's very important, close. Okay, and now let's go to the Python. If you don't specify a folder name, it will go to the Python folder where your Python is. So I will go to Python. It's on my C drive. And my file, that's just created, right? April the 8th. So if I open it, you can see those are the numbers I wrote to the file. Okay, so that's how you write to a file. And to read, we haven't talked about how to read from this file, right? Okay, to read from this file, we have examples, but I will just do it. Okay, to read from this file, you have to open the file again. Okay, so you don't have to use the same name. You can just use any name. And also, by the way, if you do not close it, you cannot read it. So once you finish writing, you must remember to close it before you open it again to read. Okay, so make sure you close it, and then if you want to read it, you open it again. I will just do F, open, and this is the file name, right? .text, that's the file name. And this time the access mode is read, that's the R. Okay, this is for reading. So now you have it. And there are several ways, and we will go through the lecture notes. I'm just being carried away here and keep writing. You can actually read the whole thing using one method, and this is how you do it. You can just say content is equal to f.read. Okay, this method for the file object, this method will read everything in the file. Okay, now I will print it out. You will see. See, that's the whole file we just wrote, right? And so this read will read everything in the file. Okay, that's very important to know. Another way to read it is, why? Someone is talking? Okay, okay, so this is how you read. You read the whole content. Now, if you want to read it line by line, we have another way to do. But remember, when you read this, okay, everybody, that's another important thing. Once you finish reading here, you read it, and now this is done. The reading cursor is right here. Okay, it's right there after 67. So you cannot reread it from the beginning. You cannot say, oh, how about I read it line by line? Let me do it again. You cannot do that because once you finish reading, the mouse pointer points to the end of the file. So you cannot read it again. What do you do if you want to read it again, everybody? If you want to read this file again, what do you have to do?
Close it and reopen it.
Yes, very good. Close it and reopen it. Okay, close. And then open it again. I will just copy and paste this. Okay, just open it again. This time I am going to read it using the for loop. Okay, because this file, it can be treated as a sequence. Okay, for, if I remember correctly. Okay, let's say line in this file, right? F is the file object, everybody. And line is just a character. It's just a variable. You can call it anything, right? And then, so this is the for loop header. And then we don't even have to call the read method. We can just reference it. You can just reference line, and this is automatically reading it, okay? So you can see that it's reading the first line, and then it reads the second line, right? So this is another way of reading it, okay? How to read from a file. Any questions, everybody? Look at the two ways. One is you read the whole thing, and then you deal with it, right? Your content now is there because I assigned it to a variable, so content is forever there. And so that's one thing. Another thing, you can actually do split. Okay, let's do that. Number list is equal to content. Because it's a string, you can split it. Split using the default space, right? And now if you print it out, you can see it's split it into individual elements. Now this is a list. Okay, that's another thing you can do. So the two ways to read a file. There is another way while true. Any questions, everybody? Okay, another thing, something else I want to talk about, that is in the book, it mentioned the directory, how to file path, how to manage the file path. Don't specify a path here. It will automatically go to your current directory, which is, in my case, the Python directory. But you can also open a file, create a file using the absolute path method. Okay, I will do that just to show you. F is equal to open. You see, I'm reusing this variable, right? I'm using F. It's just easy, so I'm using that again. And once again, two arguments. One is the file name. I will call it file2. And this is a write. Okay, so I can specify where I want to create it. Let's see, this is my C drive, and this is my C drive. On my C drive, all the others are from the college, right? Those, and this is my drive, my file, my folder. So I can create a file in this folder. So let's see that how we do that. You will specify it by using the drive letter, which is your C drive, and the backward slash, and specify the folder. If I want to put it in this folder, my name, I will just do this and file name. Okay, so this is the letter of the drive followed by the colon and forward slash and your folder name. And if you have another folder, just put another folder there. Let me see. Let's put it in story. Okay, let's put it in story. So that's the subfolder, right? And then file 2, that's the file name .text. Okay, make it a text file. Give it an extension, and that's it, right? We opened it, and then we can write to it. Created this file with absolute path. Okay, and then we close it, right? So that we can look at it, close. Now let's go there. So it's where it's on the C drive in my name, and then story, and then that, right? Okay, so this is the C drive here, and this is the folder, the first folder, subfolder, and this is story, right? And so file 2. And this is the file that's created. So there are 2 ways to decide the location. One is the relative path. Actually, there is more to the path. You can use the relative. You can use 2 dots to represent the parent directory, which we will not go to. It's in the book. It's pretty easy. So this is the current directory without specifying a drive letter or folder name. That's the current directory. And this is the absolute path. That means it's on your drive. It's on the drive and folder you specified. Okay, that's that. Any questions, everybody? Oh, I wanted to. Okay, so we discussed that open file for reading, open file for writing. Okay, and always remember everything is a string. And with this, okay, I read it. Remember, this is string, right? Here, when I print it, when I'm referencing the number in the file, they are all strings. Remember that, okay? So if you need to use it as a number, you need to convert it, okay? We discussed this already. So this is, we discussed this already, you know that, okay? And I put this here so that you pay attention, hopefully. You must remember to close a file after finishing writing to it. And the same is true for reading. File path, we did that already. Writing numbers to a file, we did this actually already. If you look at this, we wrote numbers here, right? That's what we did. So we did this, but here is another example. Let's look at this example, okay? Open, and you remember this, the 2 arguments, file name and access mode, both are strings, okay? And using a for loop, and we are doing from 0 to 499, that's 500 times. So we are generating a random number using this module, random, and .ranInt, that's a method name, right? From 1 to 500 inclusive. So this is generating a random number from 1 to 500 inclusive, and place it, store it into number. And then fwrite. We are writing this number to the file, okay? Because this is actually a number, an int, so we have to convert it, cast it, convert it to a string. That's why you see this str number, right? Okay, converted string. Once it is a string, you can concatenate it with another string. So we are concatenating this string of number with a new line character so that each line, each number is on its own line. Okay, so we are writing that 500 times, right? We generate a random number and write it for 500 times and then close. Okay, that's this program. Any questions, everybody? Any code that you don't understand, that's when you ask questions. Or anything you think, I need to know that. How do we do that? You know, any questions? Okay. If you don't have any questions. Oh, okay. I'm giving you another 2 examples. I think we did we? Oh, we didn't. I'm giving you another 2 examples. I did this yesterday. So I updated this slide yesterday. Okay, if you look at this, so this is, I'm telling you, go away. And this, you go away. Reading input from keyboard and store them in a file. So here we are generating the random number to put it in the file. And here we are just writing to it, okay, a fixed string. But here I'm giving you an example of storing the user input into the file. Okay, so let's look at it. Once again, the file object, I use numbers. And open, okay, this is the absolute path. And writing for I in range 10. So I'm looking at 10 rounds of this for loop. Number, okay, notice my file object name is numbers. And so number is equal to input. Please enter a number. So what is the data type of this number, everybody? String, right? String, you're right. I did not cast it into an int. It's just input, so it's a string. So I get that string, and then I write using the file object name numbers, that's this one, dot write this number there, right? Write this number. Plus, because it's a string, so I can do concatenation plus a space. So that's what I'm entering, right? I enter 10 numbers. And then the file will look like this. That's the file, okay? And notice I give you a note. Number is a string. No need to convert when writing to the file because you got it as a string. Okay, that's this example. That's getting user input and put it into a file, write it into a file using a for loop. So you can ask the user to enter any number of numbers and all strings. Okay, let's look at this one. This time I named it num. I'm trying to give you a sense so that you know that's just a variable name. You can name it anything, but once you name it, you need to use that name as your file object. Okay, so this is numbers and this is numbers, right? Okay, open once again that one. Notice this is number 2 and that one is just number. Writing again, and for I in range 10, so this runs 10 times again, input a number. This time, I'm writing the number, adding a new line character. And this is the file. So you can manipulate how to write to the file, right? That's the 2 examples, okay? Any questions, everybody? And always this one I cut off. This one I didn't. I left it there so that you know once you finish writing, always remember to close it. Okay. Okay. Any questions? Reading text from file. I did this already, right? F open. Remember that is the key. So that the system knows you are opening it for reading. Okay, there are several ways to read data from a file. So the read method, it will read all contents. I already showed you, right? We already saw that it reads everything. This one, the whole file. Read it as a string. Okay, so that's the read method. So we will say text.fread, and if you output it, that's exactly what we did. Okay, you can print it, and that's when you print, it doesn't give you this. It goes to the next line, right? This is just saying what's the value in that variable. This is the value in that variable. When you do print, it formats it according to whatever character escape sequence there is. Okay, and then you remember to close it. Any questions about this? I don't hear anything. I will assume you don't have any questions. Okay, reading text from a file. After input is finished, this input it simply means after you read, okay, after you finish reading, read returns an empty string. So once the system, the reading cursor reaches the bottom of the file, not the bottom, the end of the file, it will, if you ask it to read, it will give you an empty string, okay? So this is again the same thing. We did this. I did this already, right? We did that with this example. We did that with this example. So you saw that. You understand that. Okay, now let's look at this way. Next code segment reads lines of text with the read line method. This method will read each line, okay? It will read each line, not the whole file, but one line at a time. So we open it once again, and because you are reading line by line, you don't know how many lines are there. So you use the while true loop, right? While true. Notice this is uppercase, everybody, that P. Okay, so while true, colon, line is equal to F, that's the file object we opened with, right? We opened with, dot read, this is the method name. So you must have that, read line, okay? It will read one line only. How does it know it's a line? It knows it's a line when it encounters the new line character, right? When it encounters this, it knows it's a line. Okay, so this will read the line and assign it to the line variable. And then remember, this says after input is finished, that means after the content in a file is finished, read returns an empty string. So if that line, what you read is empty string, okay, nothing, then get out of this while true loop. Otherwise, if you don't get out, then that means it's not empty, you print it out, and then you close. Okay, that's, I put these comments, detailed comments here, so that you understand it. Any questions, everybody? For this one? So if you look at it, you have two ways to read it. Really, sometimes students ask me, which one do you prefer? It's not what I prefer, it's which one works in certain situations, right? Or which one is more efficient. So in this case, you decide which syntax, which loop you use, because it depends on different situations, on the problems you are solving. So one of them might work better, right? Okay. So any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
You can do this with the Mac, right? With the same format?
With
or
Mac?
Writing it?
You're talking about Mac computer?
Yeah.
Yes, you should.
Okay. So
yes.
There's like no trouble, or it's not different? Okay.
No.
Making sure.
Okay. Any other questions, everybody? Oh, I'm saying again, I look at this note, read it. Know that with the for loop, you do not need to use the read or read line method. And that's important. Sometimes you get confused. With for loop, you know, it goes through the file, just like it goes through a sequence, a list. Okay, it goes through it. So you just use this variable line to reference each line, okay? So you don't use the read or read line method. You can just reference it with a variable in the for loop header. In this case, it's line. With the while true loop, you have to actually call the read line method to read each line and test to see if you have reached the end. So the difference is with this one, you have to actually call this method to read, right? And you have to test if you have if you have reached the end, because while true is a forever loop, it doesn't end unless you get out. Questions? Okay, I'm giving you a little bit more, some more examples, more reading from a file example. Okay, so this time I named it file to read. Open, and that's the absolute path. Okay. In this line, in this file, each line has one number only. See, okay, that is this line. That is this file. Okay, that's the file. So it's each number is on its own line. Okay, so I'm just telling you so that you understand what the file looks like. Okay, now we declare we initialize a variable to 0 sum, and for num in file to read, this is the for loop, right? So this will reference each line, okay, and file to read. And we convert it to an int because this is a string. So because we want to do addition, so convert it to an int and add it to sum. Okay, this way you are accumulating the sum. So I'm saying num is a variable, file to read is the file object. And that's what that is. And then num is read in as a string, need to convert to an int for addition. That's what this is doing. Okay, so this way you are reading each one, and then you add it, you convert it to an int, and then you add it to sum, and that is the sum. That is that list of numbers, if you remember. That's that list. Okay. And this one, I'm doing this one. This is the file has one line with 10 numbers. That's this one. That's this file. Okay. And so this is how we do it. Okay, one way. So I'm declaring this, and I read the whole file. Remember, this read reads the whole file. Read line will read each line, one line at a time. So file to read, that's the object name, file object name. File to read dot read, we are reading the whole file into this variable and list. Okay, and so what are you reading? You're reading all these numbers, right? You're reading the numbers, and then we are splitting it. Remember, without a parameter for split, it uses the space as the default separator. So nList.split, it will split it into separate elements and assign that to this variable again. So now nList is not a string anymore. It is a list. So here it is a string. Here it becomes a list. Okay, split it to separate the numbers, and you print it out. This is the list. Okay, that's so now once you have a list, oh, now I remember we need to talk about the John thing. Okay, once it becomes a list, you can do anything. You can separate them, right? You can get each one of them, use the sequence, use the for loop, for example. So you can close the file. Now we are done with the file. Once you read it, actually, you are done with the file. So this file close can actually go there, right? Once you finish reading, you are done. So I'm saying you can actually put this right here. Once you're done, you can close it. And this has nothing to do with the file because it's already assigned to this variable and you print it out. So you can move this statement there just to be safe, just so that you remember you need to close it, right? And now you have all the numbers from the file. You have all the content from the file in this n list as a list. So you can do this for number in that list using the for loop and just convert that number to an int and add it to sum. That's another way. That is this, not another way. That is because it's just one line, right? So if it's one line, you need to separate, you need to split it into a list and do each element one at a time, just like this. Look at these two examples. You know what? I have been talking this whole time. I will give you some time to look at it. And words is equal to s dot split to make it into a list, right? Okay, and now if you put it, that's what this is, right? You can see it's high there. Now let's do a John. Words. And that's why I just, I cannot explain this. When I see this, I don't understand it. I cannot explain it because it's not right. Okay, that's why. So when you join, when you use, this is the string. Join is a method of string, okay? So when you join this, this will go to that, this string will go into the list of each word. I will show you. How about this? Okay, let's do, if I do this, John, words, you will see it goes in between the two words, right? So this is absolutely wrong. I need to change, this is from the author. So I need to change that. So I don't feel that bad now because it's not correct. That's why I cannot explain it. Okay, that's how John is used. You cannot use a list to do the John because this is not a method of list. Okay, just know that. So when you do this and you say, why does it not work? This will not work because John is a method of string. Remember, it's a method of string. Okay, string method. So here, words is not a string. Words is a list. You split this into a list. So now it's a list and this will not work. Okay, that's why when you do this, just remember that. But once it's a list, but you can join this with a string. Yeah. Okay. Last time we did this, something like this, right? Python rules. We already did this, right? Okay. If you do s.john, you know, if you do this, it will repeat it, right? You remember this. Okay. So it will insert those three before and after, right? And remember this first one is this one. It's in the string already. That is in the string already. Okay, but if you do it differently, okay, if this is a list, let me make it into a list. Right now it's a list. It's not a string anymore. And then if you do this, okay, the list, okay, it will go into the middle of the list. If you have more words, it will go into the middle of each of the list. If you have 3 words, it will have 2 sets of these of this. That's why when we did that exercise, I just couldn't find it. I don't know where it is. I remember we did that, but I couldn't find it. Okay, John S, it gives you Python totally rules. I don't have the space, that's why. Okay, but that's that John method. Any questions, everybody? I remember I promised you I would look into it. And so, okay, any questions? No? Okay. Then let's continue, right? Okay, I am going to continue here. So you understand all this? Okay, let's look at this. Reading number from a file, reading numbers from a file. Okay, let's look at this exercise. Let's look at this. In Python, string representations of integers and floating point numbers can be converted to the numbers by using the file. You already know that, right? Int. We learned that the very first class, I remember. Okay, so we open this file named integers.txt. We open it. And the file object name is F, okay? And so now when you want to reference the file, you need to use this object name. I'm repeating this concept here, okay? And we declare it as, we initialize it to 0, and then we can reference each line, right? So each line in that file object, and we are stripping it. The strip is simply because sometimes you might have something like this. Okay, your list, you might have a space, or a neoline character or something. So this strip will get rid of any spaces, neolines or tabs. It gets rid of all the spaces and returns that string with just the characters, the digital characters. Okay. And then you convert it to an int and assign it to number. And then you add it to it. Okay. And you print it. Any questions about this? No questions? And please read these explanations. I added them yesterday. So just to explain it, okay? Let's look at another example here. Okay, this is the list. This is the file. And so I'm opening that file. Oh, isn't this what we just did? Right? Yeah, that's exactly what we just did. Okay, so so I'm saying there are 3 lines in the file. The loop will run 3 times, right? You have 3 lines, so this will run 3 times. And then line.split. Oh, I see what I'm doing. Okay, line.split. Why do we need to split? Because each line has different number of numbers. So this references each line, and then each line has several numbers. So we split it. Without the parameter argument, it's split it by space. So we split this into 3 elements, right? Okay, and then once we split it, I'm printing it out just so that you can see. Okay, this is after it's split, right? This is the output for the print word list statement. So the first time it will be this one, the second time it's this one, the third time it's this one. Okay, that's the 3 lines split it into separate individual elements. Okay, so this is that function. That's make it into a list. And then because it's a list, you can use this for loop. For each word in that list, okay, you convert it into an int, assign it to a number, to the number variable, and add to it. And then you get that. Okay, so why I have 2 examples. So for this one, it's each line has multiple numbers. For this example, each line has only 1 number. So you don't need to split, it's just 1, and you just strip it, okay? Make it naked, and then you add it, okay? Convert it to a number and add it. This one, each line has multiple numbers, so you need to split it. And then go through that list using another for loop. So this for loop will go through each number, okay? And this for loop will go through each line. So for each line, This loop will go through each individual number. Okay, that's this code. Any questions, everybody? Okay, methods for manipulating a file. And you are already familiar with this, right? Open, you see file name, mode, right? And close, you must close it. And write.
Although it would be nice to reread this to kind of get a review.
Yeah. Yes, read this and so that you know it's a summary. Yes. Okay, f.write, you just write to the file. And this reads the whole file. And this reads one line of the file. It reads down from, remember this reading and writing, it always proceeds from top to bottom. Once it reaches bottom, you cannot say, let's go back. You cannot do that. If you want to go back, you must reopen the file, close the file and reopen it. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Any questions, everybody? These are the several methods that you can use to manipulate files. After finishing reading or writing, I'm repeating this. You must close the file. If you do not close the file after writing, it cannot be opened for reading. After reading, the cursor is at the end of the file. You cannot read it again without closing and reopening it. I'm just stressing that point, okay? So any questions about what we covered? And I would say yesterday I really worked on this just so that I can give you more examples and explanations. So you do have a lot of examples of this. Do you have any questions, everybody? Do you have any examples that you don't quite understand? No? Are you sure? That's good. Okay. So that's that. Now let's do this. This is a simple example, simple exercise. Let's do that. Create a file named myfile.txt in the current folder. Write 3 lines of text to it using the right method of the file object. Close it and open it for reading. Read back the 3 lines of text and print them out. Okay, let's do that. 10 minutes. So we are looking at which one?
Right now you're looking at mine.
No, I mean, I ask you, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so, okay, yeah, okay. So create file, yeah. Okay, everybody look at this. This is good, this is good. What you did was input, you asked the user to input something and write it to the file, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then increment that line number so that you can do, oh, your line number is there, I see. Okay, very good, very good. And file close. Okay, print that out. And then you open it for reading. Okay, print, that's the format that line number, and then print it and increment line number. Okay, very good. So let's run it. Okay, very good. And so that's that should be in your. Let's look at the file. Let's look at the file you just wrote, Kyle. Let's
Sure.
find that file. And
I would assume that it's in here because I didn't designate. Yeah, it's right here.
okay, very good. Let's open it. Very good, very good. That's the file, right? Okay, good. Let's look at the reading. Did you run the reading already?
Do you
Yeah,
need to get
it's
user input
right here
or-
at the bottom.
Okay. I'm
Wait.
sorry. The first
Wait.
part there is the writing, and that's the reading. Okay, very
Wait,
good.
do you need to
Kyle.
get user input or?
I don't think you do have to get user input. I just did that because I didn't know what to input, and that would mean
Yes,
that now I
I
just.
didn't ask you to do the user input. Everybody, Kyle, let's go back to your code. I want everybody to see that for the input function, just highlight your input function. For the input function there, you don't always, the input function.
Okay.
Yeah. So everybody look at what
Right
Kyle did. He did input without anything, right? Input, just parentheses without anything. That means you don't always have to give the user a prompt. Remember, we always say enter a number, enter a line of text. We always give the user a prompt, an instruction. What he did is he didn't give the user any instruction, and that works. I want you to know that. Okay, and that's something I wanted you to know. I forgot if I mentioned, but that's a good example. It will work. It works by itself without even a string argument. Okay, so he gets the input from the user and immediately write that input to the file. That's how that works. Okay, very good, Kyle. Thank you. Kyle did the reading, which I didn't ask you to do, so he actually did actual work. And let's look at this one. For this one, this is on-class. It is what we said what I said you need to do, right? You write into it, open the file, write into it, close it, and then open the file again and read, and just print it out. Okay. So did you run it, Omkar? We cannot see your running. Yes. Okay. So that is the running of the code. That's correct. Okay. So what he did is he read the whole file as one text and print it out, right? Okay. Yeah, this is what I ask you to do, the very basic read and write. And so thank you, Hamka. This one, my collection, that's a file, and write collect comic books. Wow, are you making a lot of money now? Okay, and you close it and open my collection for reading, and you read. And the content. Okay, now here is something. When you do content there, everybody, okay, when you do content equals to f.read right here, you're reading the whole file. That's good. But when you simply put a content there, it doesn't work. That works with the interactive shell. With this this IDLE, it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything because that's just referencing the variable. So let's delete that, Eugenio. Delete that content. Yeah, it doesn't do anything. Okay, so you read it. Now it's in your content, and you closed it. And so you opened it again, and then you print each line. Let's run it. If you minimize this screen, we should be able to see the other one. Okay, so this is correct. That's the run, right?